Boston, March 18th, 1990, 8:15 in the morning. The morning shift finds it first. Not the guards, the wall. 2 guards, duct taped to pipes in the basement, eyes covered, mouths sealed. The panic button was 3 feet from the desk. It was never touched. 13 works. Gone. The FBI will not arrive for another 6 hours. Rick Abath, 23 years old, a rock musician, a night watchman, the same job. The security camera caught them at the door at 1:24 in the morning. 2 men, police uniforms. The Vermeer, the concert, $200 million, the most valuable missing painting on Earth. The short gallery. The glass was smashed inward. The paper was still on the mat. The art was not. The blue room. The Manet was gone. Its frame was left on the security chief's office chair, face up. 2:45 in the morning, they walked to the car. They did not run. They drove away. The motion sensors tracked every step they took, logged it in real time, and told no one. 13 items, 81 minutes. The building was untouched. The collection was not. The courtyard was untouched. The lilies were still blooming. They never went near it. They spent 10 minutes on the Eagle, an Imperial Guard regiment finial, gilt bronze, 1813. The FBI receives the call at 8:53 in the morning, 6 hours and 8 minutes too late. They did not remove the Rembrandt. They took a utility knife to it, 350 years old. The museum cannot take the frames down, cannot replace the art. The will forbids it. They hang there forever. $500 million. And not one arrest. Not one. 1943, Milton, Massachusetts. A coastal suburb, a quiet street, a police officer's house. His father was a Milton police officer. One brother became a Catholic priest. He became a rock singer. The Beachcomber Bar. He performed acoustic sets. He was good. That was never the problem. He began studying art, museums, galleries, not as a connoisseur, as an engineer. In 1965, he broke into the Forbes family mansion, his own hometown. He engaged a deputy sheriff in a shooting exchange on the front lawn. He was 22 years old. He got away. The charges came later. A career had begun. By 1975, he had graduated. The Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. He walked the galleries for weeks before the theft, studying how they moved, how they guarded it. He stole a Rembrandt from the Museum of Fine Arts, worth millions. Then he did something unprecedented. He kept it, not for the money. He needed leverage. He told the prosecutors, "Give back the Rembrandt, reduce the sentence." They accepted. The Rembrandt was returned. His sentence was cut. He walked out a free man. He had just proven something no criminal in American history had demonstrated so cleanly. A stolen masterpiece is not paint on canvas. It is a hostage, and hostages can be traded for freedom. He shared this with certain people, the right people, the kind who kept their own ledgers. By the early 1980s, a different kind of man was studying the Gardner Museum. He had a specific fixation, Napoleonic artifacts, the gilt eagle. He had already decided what he was going to take. The New England Patriarcha crime family, the oldest organized crime structure in Boston. Donati was a driver. By 1989, Vincent Ferrara was facing federal RICO charges, serious time, the kind you do not survive inside. In 1982, the FBI formally warned the Gardner Museum. A criminal gang had targeted it. The museum filed the letter. Louis Royce had already cased the museum in 1981. He planned to rush the galleries with smoke bombs. Donati and Connor climbed the exterior trees. They mapped the guard routes from the branches, every night patrol, every timing gap. They reached the same conclusion every time. The only way in was a police uniform. Human psychology was the lock, and they had the key. The museum's guards were unarmed by institutional policy. Gardner wanted her palace welcoming, not militarized. Her will was explicit. Not one painting may be moved, not one frame rearranged. If violated, everything forfeits to Harvard. Rick Abath played guitar in a band called The Resistance. He hosted parties to make rent. The museum was a paycheck. He regularly opened the side entrance for people he should not have let in. It was a habit, not a plan. March 17th, 12:49 in the morning, an unidentified man arrived at the side door. Abath let him in. The security camera recorded a red hatchback on Palace Road. An unidentified man in a waist-length coat. A test. Abath later told investigators he had no memory of letting anyone in that night. Zero recollection. March 17th, Boston, St. Patrick's Day. The streets were saturated with alcohol and noise. Law enforcement was stretched to its limit. A witness later told federal agents he saw Donati at a bar in Revere. He was carrying a package. Inside, police uniforms. One of them wore a fake mustache, a theatrical adhesive piece, glued crookedly to his upper lip. 1:24 in the morning, two men in Boston police uniforms approached the side door on Palace Road. They rang the intercom. They said there was a disturbance in the courtyard. It was St. Patrick's Day. Abath believed them. At 1:26 in the morning, Abath pressed the release. The door opened. The lock disengaged. That was the entire defense. 81 minutes. That is how long the most expensive property crime in human history took to complete. It had already begun. They said, "Gentlemen, this is a robbery. Don't give us any problems and you won't get hurt." They told Abath he looked familiar, asked him to step out from behind the desk to prove his identity. He stepped out. By 1:30 in the morning, both guards were bound. 6 minutes. The museum was theirs. 1:48 in the morning. The motion sensors recorded their first movement. Dutch room, second floor. Christ in the Storm on the Sea of Galilee, 1633. Rembrandt's only known seascape, $100 million. They smashed the protective glass first. The shards fell onto the parquet. They were not careful. They were fast. Then the blade, a standard utility knife, the kind sold at every hardware store in America, against a 350-year-old canvas. The canvas edge, where the linen met the wooden stretcher, the blade went through it in one pass. The Vermeer they lifted carefully. They removed it from the frame intact. $200 million, handled like luggage. They spent 10 minutes on the eagle. 10 minutes, unscrewing a gilt bronze finial while a Raphael hung untouched 12 feet away. The short gallery, 5 Degas works on paper. They smashed the glass inward with their fists and pulled the paper out. The Blue Room, first floor, Edouard Manet, 1875. They removed it and placed the empty frame on the security chief's chair. The motion sensors recorded 0 movement in the Blue Room that night. 0. The only footsteps recorded there belonged to Abath, hours before. 2:40 in the morning, 2 trips. They walked to the car, loaded the canvases, and walked back for more, unhurried, methodical. The hatchback trunk closed. 13 items, a $500 million cargo in a 1981 compact car. 2:45 in the morning, the engine started. The car moved. The art left Boston. For 6 hours, the museum sat as it always had. From the street, nothing was wrong. Inside, the walls were open wounds. 18 months after the theft, the paintings had not surfaced. Not one laid, not one credible sighting. Donati had not stolen the art to sell it. He had stolen it to trade it. Vincent Ferrara was in federal custody and needed a way out. Ferrara was serving time on RICO charges. The plan was to offer the Gardner collection to federal prosecutors in exchange for his freedom. By 1991, the Patriarca family was consuming itself. Factions were eliminating each other. Donati was in the middle of it. September 24th, 1991, a dark green Cadillac DeVille, East Boston, an ordinary residential street. A resident noticed the car had been parked for 2 days. The engine had not started. Something was wrong. Robert Donati, beaten, stabbed, bound, found in the trunk of his own Cadillac. He took every answer with him. Without Donati alive to broker the exchange, there was no deal to be made. The paintings had no one to negotiate for them. David Houghton, Multiple informants identified him as the man who drove the van. He died of heart disease in 1992. Too famous to sell on the open market, too dangerous to hold. The art had become a liability to everyone who touched it. Miles Connor was in an Illinois federal prison on the night of March 18th. Cocaine trafficking. He was the FBI's first suspect and their first dead end. Years earlier in Hancock County Jail, Connor had carved a handgun from a bar of soap, painted it black with shoe polish, then used it to walk out. He bluffed his way past armed guards with a bar of soap. The guards were real. The handgun was not. He disappeared into the woods. The Gardner Museum announced a $10 million reward, the largest ever offered by a private institution. It remains unclaimed. The museum's lawyers confirmed what everyone already knew. The frames could not come down. The will was ironclad. By the mid-90s, the FBI's suspect list had expanded. Carmelo Merlino's gang, Robert Guarente, Robert Gentile, each name a new dead end. Anthony Amore spent 2 decades as the Gardner's chief of security. He mapped every movement the thieves made, every centimeter of the crime scene. Robert Guarente's widow told investigators her husband had possessed the paintings in the early 2000s. He had passed them to Robert Gentile in Maine. A Boston defense attorney put it plainly, everybody who did the robbery is whacked, or died of natural causes, or some might say unnatural causes. The paintings were somewhere. No one with the knowledge to retrieve them was still alive. And the frames kept hanging. May 1994. Museum director Anne Hawley received a letter, no return address, postmarked New York. The demand was $2.6 million, plus absolute immunity for everyone involved, in exchange for the 13 stolen works. The letter contained one detail that had never been published. The writer claimed the thieves did not wear police uniforms. They wore security guard uniforms. The museum placed a coded signal in the Boston Globe, a specific advertisement phrasing agreed upon in advance, an open door. The FBI refused to grant blanket immunity. The correspondent never wrote again. The door closed, permanently. 3 years of silence. Then, in the summer of 1997, an antiques dealer named William Youngworth contacted the Boston Herald. Tom Mashberg of the Boston Herald agreed. Late one night, he got into Youngworth's car. He did not know where he was going. The car stopped. He did not recognize where he was. The building was dark. Youngworth told him to get out. Youngworth had a flashlight. He turned it on. The beam crossed the warehouse floor and landed on the canvas. The beam found the canvas, a large roll of oil painting on linen resting on a cloth. He could see the churning ocean, the dark sky, the shredded sail. Mashberg later wrote that he was 90% certain he was looking at the stolen Rembrandt. He stood there in the dark for a very long time. Youngworth scraped microscopic paint chips from the canvas surface and gave them to Mashberg. Physical proof, or so he claimed. The FBI laboratory and the museum's conservators spent weeks analyzing the chips. The results were extraordinary and maddening. The chips were authentic 17th century Dutch paint. The chemistry was real, but they did not match the chemical signature of that specific Rembrandt. 2 possibilities: a chemically sophisticated forgery built to deceive, or a real canvas from the right era, and Youngworth simply scraped the wrong painting in the dark. The Boston Herald ran the story on the front page. The headline, "We've seen it. The city woke up to it on a Tuesday morning." 2012, the FBI raided Robert Gentile's home in Connecticut. They found 2 things they had not expected. Beneath the backyard shed, a hidden ditch, hand excavated, designed for storage. It was empty. In the same raid, agents found a handwritten piece of paper, a price list, every stolen Gardner painting listed by name, with estimated black market values beside each one. Gentile served 30 months on unrelated drug charges. He failed a polygraph. He never said a word about the paintings. He died without speaking. There is one detail in the Gardner case that the FBI has never been able to explain: the blue room, the motion sensors, the zero. The thieves entered the blue room. They removed the Manet. They placed the empty frame on the chair. The sensors recorded none of it. Investigators began calling it a heist within a heist. The theory: The Monet was taken by someone with inside access before the fake officers even rang the intercom. The only footsteps the sensors recorded in the Blue Room that night, the only ones, belonged to Rick Abath, earlier in his patrol, before the breach. Over the following years, investigators documented a pattern: the dry run, the protocol violations, the memory gaps, the footprints. Abath maintained his innocence for 34 years. He kept playing music. He played for decades after. He lived a quiet life. He never stopped saying he had nothing to do with it. Rick Abath died in 2024. He maintained his innocence until the end. Every question he could have answered died with him. Donati, dead 1991. Houghton, dead 1992. Guarente, dead 2004. Abath, dead 2024. The list goes only one direction. Every year, hundreds of thousands of visitors walk through the Gardner Museum. They pass the empty frames. Most of them stop. Some of them reach out toward the void. The concert by Vermeer, 224 square centimeters of oil paint on linen, the most valuable missing object in the world. The courtyard is unchanged. The calla lilies bloom every year. The wisteria comes back every spring. The garden does not know what happened. The unarmed guard policy. It was a philosophical decision. Gardner believed a museum should feel like a home, not an armory. That decision cost her collection $500 million. The will was not malicious. It was obsessive. Gardner did not want her vision altered after she died. She got exactly what she asked for. The museum commissioned a legal review in 2015. The conclusion was the same as 1990. The frames must stay. The bronze goose is 3,000 years old. The Degas sketches, pencil on paper. One of them is worth less than $40,000. All of them still missing. The FBI designates the Gardner case as active. It is the longest-running art theft investigation in American history. They have never closed it. The $10 million reward has sat unclaimed for 3 decades. The money is still there. The offer is still open. The phones are quiet. The museum is open 6 days a week. The Dutch room is on the 2nd floor. The frames are still there. They will be there tomorrow. Among the missing, a Rembrandt self-portrait etching the size of a postage stamp. He is looking directly at you. He has been missing for 34 years. Somewhere in the Blue Room data, there is a door that was open from the inside. No sensor recorded it. No one has ever explained it. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum opens its doors every morning. The staff arrives, the lights come on, and the Dutch room receives its first visitors of the day. They stand in front of the empty frames, a retired couple from Ohio, a school group from Cambridge, a lone art student with a sketchbook. They all stop. The Gardner heist was not a failure of technology. The technology worked perfectly. The motion sensors logged every step. The CCTV captured the thieves' faces. None of it mattered. It was a failure of human judgment. One young man at a desk. One button he did not press. One door he should not have opened. That was the entire margin. The canvases have been somewhere for 34 years. In that time, they have been breathing, reacting to humidity, temperature, whatever space they are in. Vermeer's concert was painted with lead white and natural ultramarine. Those materials are profoundly sensitive to moisture, temperature change, and light. 34 years is a long time. Miles Connor spent years in and out of prison after the Gardner theft. He has since offered on multiple occasions to help find the missing paintings. He has never been taken up on it. Every institution that holds something irreplaceable relies at its absolute foundation on a single human being making the right decision in the right moment. The museum upgraded its security in the years following the theft. Armed guards, pressure-sensitive alarms, biometric access, the system that 1990 needed. In the corporate world and the criminal world alike, the truth is always buried. We just choose not to omit it. Subscribe for the next takedown.